What's going on, family? In remembrance of Martin Luther King, I'm gonna play a few clips for you. And doing these clips, after each clip, I'm going to break break each clip down for us to understand that in order for us to be organized, in order for us to get where we need to be, and this something has been talked about since Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and probably years before them. There's certain things they're going to say, and I want you to relate to 2026 at this moment to
The
see
time is
exactly.
10 o'clock p.m.
Thank you for giving my time. But to also see the progress and what they warned us about in those days that's happening right now today. So without further ado, I'm going to play my first little clip, and I want y'all to understand that this is a learning experience. And please like and subscribe my page. Because everything I do, I want to break things down for people to understand because I want to unify our people. But we can't unify until we all be on the same page. And this is the open discussion. I'm not saying I'm always right, but I feel as a fact, this we've been warned has been the detriment of us not achieving a united greatness, not just for some. So without further ado, let me play you this clip.
A recent claim by President Trump that the 1964 Civil Rights Act harmed white Americans is just wrong, and it's dangerous. It rewrites history in a way that fuels fear and resentment. My fathers and so many leaders of the movement, Fred Shuttlesworth, Diane Nash, John Lewis, I can call the roll, but I won't do it today, did not risk their lives to divide this nation. They did not risk their lives to divide this nation. They did so because America was denying millions basic rights, the right to work, the right to vote, to live where they please, to move through society with dignity. The Civil Rights Act did not give black people special treatment. It made discrimination illegal. The same discrimination you're trying to turn around and use. It required the law to protect everyone equally. That is democracy. So to my white brothers and sisters, the Civil Rights Act was never meant to harm you. It was meant to heal a nation broken by injustice. Fairness does not steal from you. Justice strengthens us all.
Now, as you see, that took place in the church. That was Bernice King, Martin Luther King's daughter. Now, the problem I have with that is the Civil Rights Act didn't do anything. From that point on to 1964 to now, black people and white people, all alike, have seen tremendously blacks still being discriminated on. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have a Black Lives Matter movement. We wouldn't have all these particular movements in different communities coming together to trying to understand and rectify the situation in their community. But I say this. How can you heal a community? How can you grow a community without the knowledge without unity, without unifying, without coming together, without supporting each other, how can you build such a structure without organization, without understanding, without self-reflecting? Because when you think about it, every last one of us done been through something in so-called America. And for those that know, this land was ours in the first place, and it was stripped from us. Not only the land taken from us, our resources. So the systematic denying us rights. When we had rights after the war, what the rights was. At that particular time in 64, we were still classified as Negroes. At that particular time. It was just up to recently that we start being identified as African American, which is another reclassification instead of us being classified of who we are. And no matter how many questions I ask a lot of people that claim they know who they are, we don't know who you are unless you have an ancestor and y'all done passed that message down through generations. But majority of the people that's considered and classified as African American, including myself, we don't know who we are. Don't know our culture, don't know where we come from, don't know nothing about our past, the knowledge that our ancestors, nothing. So we was completely stripped naked in America on our own land, and we was told that we came from somewhere else. We was told that other places, that we existed other places before we got here. So that don't give us rights to the land, or that don't give us ties to the land, because what they used to tell us, go back to where you come from. We been here. But that's another story. And then here's another, my white brothers and sisters. No offense to any white person that, if you listen to this just has nothing to do with you. But we talking about generations down the line that completely can be your great-great-grandfather or whatever took advantage of our great-great-grand ancestors. So what you have is rightfully ours to have, but we did not have the benefit of growing up in a farm, growing up peacefully, growing up without being ran, growing up in a decent environment that every person can grow. Nobody hating on each other. It's always love like it always been. We've been attacked for years, dumping heroin, dumping crack, dumping cocaine into our neighborhoods. Then you got these patriotic niggas that done went and fought in the war, trying to fight, wanting to be an American because they don't know who they are. Everybody want to be a part of America that is not even Trump. You know, what is America? It's a business. It's not a country. This is the only landmass divided by states and not by countries. Do your research. On any map, anywhere else, they got countries. Africa got, I don't know how many, 57, I don't know, a lot of countries. Iran, South America got countries. We the only one got states. But that's beside the point. The point in recognition of Martin Luther King, there was a message. And the message is for us to be getting treated, not for some, But for all black people need to be able to have a decent place to stay. And if they work, make decent amount of money. And everybody should have an opportunity to be able to do something. But see, what people don't realize, as long as we don't own anything, we haven't created a structure. That's what we need, a structure to help integrate that no man be left behind. Now on to my second message. Here's Malcolm X gonna break something down for you. Cause these are things that we forgot. I haven't, but black people have forgot. That is not instilled in these kids. That's not instilled in their parents. Some of them have that fire, some of them don't. But this the time to be able to educate yourself on what's really going on in this world. Now on to my next scene.
The white power structure to slow down that struggle for freedom and human dignity uses tricks. 100 years ago, they could do it with chains. Today, they use tricks, and one of the tricks that they've invented is this token integration to get Negroes, so-called Negro leaders, to accept a few token crumbs of integration that don't solve any problem for the masses of black people in this country whatsoever, but it does make the hand-picked Negroes be satisfied to slow down the cry of the masses. And a good example of that is as soon as the spirit of rebellion or revolution began to spread among the masses of black people in this country, and they began to take an active part, and they showed that they weren't confined to this nonviolent approach, then the government or the power structure began to sit up and take notice. And now, as you said earlier, the president is talking about new legislation and to put it, take it out of the streets and put it back in the courts. Why? As long as it's in the streets, it's in the hands of the masses of black people who will not compromise or who cannot be bought out. But when you put it back in the courts, then that puts it back into the hands of the hand-picked Negro leaders who will allow the judges and the other persons that are involved in this white power structure to slow them down. It's only a trick. And as long as the masses of black people are involved in the struggle for freedom, not integration, but freedom and respect as human beings, respect as men, and show that they're willing to die to be respected as men, then the power structure sits up and takes notice. But as long as this mass element is led, and when I say led, I use led in quotes, actually contained by Uncle Tom Negro leaders who hold them back, who tell them turn the other cheek, and things like that, then the white power structure isn't worried at all. They're only worried when they know that the masses of black people are ready to explode, and in exploding it will destroy some of the furniture in their house, and then they react accordingly.
Now people don't understand that. But ever since during the civil rights era, even with the non-violent activism, white people still was violent. Put dogs on them, sprayed them with water. Burn down their home, put crosses. KKK was doing what they want to do, which was still law enforcement. So how can you win? How can you win? And just like he said, the hand-picked niggas. Because that's exactly what now is still hand-picked niggas. You know, every time they want to do something for the black community, why are you talking to white people? You know, I hate to see the structure of how people utilize their voice. You know, you're claiming one thing, but you're doing something else. I don't see the structure of the same people that got you in the position, that's well off, that's doing 10 times better than any one of them, you're going to them still with a handout when we have all the power to do it ourselves. You know, everybody has something to offer, but everybody has to also believe in each other and believe in what's right. You know, we done got to a point where we gave up without understanding how we got there. Nobody, even the kids today, that goes through the stuff that we go through because we allowed it. Because we allowed, parents allowed the government to dictate how they raise the kids. Also due to the fact of mental health issues, people traumatized, people going through things, drugs, everything that was infested in the neighborhood, poor education, lack of mentorship. I mean, got people, depending on food stamps and public housing. You know, there was a mind frame. This became generational. This became something that continued to flourish. There was no growth. And even at the time, which people don't see, when we start selling dope in the 80s, when they start taking that dope money and start doing things positive with it. At the same time, they twisted the whole money thing up. So then they made the rap game the dope game, because the dope game was the tool to destroy the community. And then once that ran amok and they started seeing and flipping the money and whatever, they had to find another agenda. So when they seen us using rap as a way to communicate, to be able to pass a message to the masses of black people, and they noted, and the message that was being passed to black people at that time was positive messages. And those positive messages influenced a whole particular community and nation, that black people started to be more educated and start doing things. Then they slowed it up with changing the whole educational program to make niggas stupid. Fuck the police, all this and that. Everything went gangster. Now I'm from the street, but it wasn't really nothing to brag about. And just like you see a lot of kids, everything seem all good and whatever till you get locked up. Everybody I know sell dope when I was selling dope, and we got jobs. Or they in prison, they ain't getting out no more. So, I mean, everybody got something. It's all about your support, your family. You got so much resources around you. So I used to consider all black people to me my family, and I still do. I don't know a black person that should be a stranger to me. I should be going anywhere. That's in my heart, because we all the same. Niggas in Philadelphia go through the same shit a nigga in Miami go through. New York, shit. Even Arkansas, niggas down there, they go through the same shit. They might have a different dialect, a different way of doing things, but I don't care where you go at all over the world, niggas the same. Now that culture is not just because who we are. It's just who they made us to be. We came so adaptable of being by, yeah, this what we is, because we different. We already ostracized. Everybody know white. I don't care. It ain't nobody blind. Racism always been there. On your job and on the streets. Everybody might not be racist, but put it like this: 4 out of 10, and it might be even higher than that they don't like you. And even something that smiled in your face, that don't mean they like you either. You know, they prove, in order to prove, they got to show by their actions. And see, I hate the point of saying, well, how can I not be angry at the same time? Understand that, hey, I'm not angry like to a point that I feel like I'm enraged or anything like that. But just the thought of humanity, just the thought of how intricately that you destroyed a lot of people's future and their well-being by destroying their ancestors and destroying and creating a lie, creating this false sense of who we are. Admittedly, not saying that you took what belonged to us, but reclassified us to make us forget that we even have claim to the land. And then, and at the same time, trying to create laws to make it legally for you to have access to the land by being born here. But that does not fly. That's not how that works. A citizen, a natural citizen, a grandfather then citizen, someone whose bloodline been here longer than anyone else's, and I'm one of them. My bloodline got from all the way from West Africa, Nigeria, all the way to New England, Wales, all over. So I know one of my ancestors was well traveled, both of them. They've been somewhere everywhere. Mother and father side. So it don't matter. The bloodline thick. Now here's the second one. Because this is all to remember, because the message, pay attention to the message. Malcolm X said some real things about how they utilize the token people instead of the masses. And the masses is what being more affected than anything besides the tokenized people. They don't see it that way because regardless of how anyone look at it, we are all slaves to the system. Either we can do good or we can do what we want. And the hell with everybody else. And I ain't built that way. I feel like we all in this together. And we can all achieve a common goal together. If we all listen to each other, if we can work together, if we can organize, if we can really do this. I'm going to the land. This is my last video. This is Martin Luther King. He said some real stuff. And I'm going to end it on that note. Y'all pay attention to this last one.
My friends, we often speak of violence as something loud. We imagine broken windows, raised fists, burning streets. But I come before you tonight to say that is a violence far more dangerous, because it wears a suit, because it speaks politely, because it moves slowly. And that violence is economic injustice. I have walked through the streets of Birmingham, and I have seen men who worked from sunrise to sunset and still could not afford dignity. I have stood with sanitation workers in Memphis, men who collected society's refuse, yet were treated as disposable themselves. They were not beaten by batons. They were beaten by wages that could not feed a family. They were not jailed by law. They were imprisoned by debt, by hunger, by fear. And I tell you tonight, poverty is violence stretched over time. It steals without breaking in. It wounds without leaving bruises. It kills without ever firing a gun. Some ask me, why do you speak of economics when we are still fighting for civil rights? And I answer plainly, what good is the right to sit at a lunch counter if you cannot afford the meal? What good is the right to vote if your vote cannot protect you from starvation wages? Freedom without economic power is a house with no foundation. It looks strong until the storm comes. I have learned through bitter experience that injustice is never isolated. Racial injustice, political injustice, economic injustice, they are threads of the same cloth. You pull one and the whole garment trembles. Let us be honest tonight. The ghetto is not an accident. The slum is not a mistake. Poverty is not the result of laziness. These conditions are produced, they are maintained, they are protected by systems that profit from despair. And while we debate manners, while we ask for patience, while we are told to wait for a better time, children go to bed hungry, mothers choose between rent and medicine, fathers work 2 jobs and still feel like failures. This is violence, not sudden, not spectacular, but relentless. I have been told that speaking this way is dangerous, that it is divisive, that it makes people uncomfortable. But my brothers and sisters, truth has never been safe, and justice has never been convenient. If I remain silent about economic injustice, I betray the very people for whom the movement was born. Nonviolence does not mean indifference. It does not mean acceptance of suffering. It does not mean telling the poor to endure quietly. Nonviolence is a refusal to respond to injustice with hatred, but it is also the refusal to accept injustice at all. We will not burn cities, but neither will we worship systems that burn human lives slowly. We will not strike with fist, but we will strike at conscience. We will strike at policy. We will strike at structures that deny men and women the fruits of their own labor. And so I say to you tonight, a nation that can spend billions on war, but cannot spend billions to lift its poor, is approaching spiritual death. A society that measures success by profit, but ignores suffering, is building its future on sand. Justice is not charity. Fair wages are not favors. Dignity is not a gift to be earned. It is a right to be honored. We must organize. We must educate. We must pressure systems that have grown comfortable with inequality. And we must do it not with bitterness, not with hatred, but with an unshakable insistence that every human life is worth more than the price assigned to it. Economic injustice is violence in slow motion. And tonight we choose to stop the clock. Thank you.
Now that's going to be the end of my message. Martin Luther King said, I feel the same way he feel economic injustice. But there's only one way that we can solve that problem. But we have to talk about it. We have to unite. We have to come together. So any brothers and sisters that hear this message, reach out to me. We can do this. Yeah, we can work together. I honestly believe that. So peace out. Much love to my brothers and sisters. And may God bless.